How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is some news that came out pretty recently, and given my recent video about the Unreal Engine hate, I think is very relevant that we discuss this. So let's get right to it. Oh, here it goes. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney says Unreal Engine's 5 performance problems aren't about the engine. They're about when developers choose to optimize. And there's a little bit about the Halo Studios here, because this is from Windows Central. I'm going to leave a link in the description to this article, by the way. But it says, it's not all smooth sailing. UE5 has earned a reputation for stunning visuals and struggling with frustrating performance problems. Now, Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney has weighed in on why so many games built with the engine are struggling. And if we keep going, here it talks a little bit about when Lumen was introduced. UE5 was introduced in 2020 with Lumen, Land of Nanite Tech. That's the video with Echo where they show Nanite and Lumen. One of the things about Nanite is that it allows you to have like super high-end meshes, so immense amount of polygons on the scene like you've never seen before. If you're new to the channel, I break down AAA video games. We look at assets from like characters and environments. So far, I haven't seen environments that are super high poly, but Nanite allows you to have environments with like ridiculous polygons, like in the millions of polygons, and your game supposedly still runs smooth. Now, the showcase was visually stunning and immediately set high expectations. Put a pin in that because we're going to discuss that in a second. However, UE5 games started arriving. Many players reported the opposite experience. Complaints of stuttering, crashes per performance rate, and high hardware demands. Pretty much everything that I've heard on Twitter. Titles such as Lord of the Fallen. I think that game's coming out next year. I don't know. I'm very confused about what's going on with the Lord of the Fallen situation. I think they released this year or last year and it wasn't good, so they're re-releasing something like that. Then there's Witch and Fallen Feathers, which I have here. A lot of people love it, but it has starting problems, and same thing happened with Oblivion Remaster. A lot of people love that game. I personally didn't have problems with that game. Still works great on my computer, but some people I've heard it had problems, especially on consoles. That said, not every UE5 release has faltered. There's Senua Saga, Hellblade 2, and Epic's Fortnite. Fortnite is made by Epic, so there's that. And Fortnite, it's going to always have like the best optimization because Epic, that's Epic's game, so that makes sense. Senua Saga Hellblade 2 is another game that, in my opinion, was Epic's baby because Hellblade 2 was showcasing a lot of the metahuman technology and a lot of like the high-end visual technology that Unreal Engine has. So to me, I think they were on top of that studio to make the game run great. And that is my argument why I keep saying that Witcher 4 is going to be the best at looking and the best performing game in Unreal Engine 5 because Epic has invested like a really, really high interest in that game doing successfully. I think after what we saw in the Unreal Fest, I think Witcher 4 has become or will be a flagship of Unreal Engine 5, even though it's not made by Epic, it's made by CD Projekt, but still, Epic wants that game to work well. So that game, I'm pretty sure it's going to be fantastic. Now let's keep reading. So Tim Sweeney has stepped in to address the criticism. He explained that many developers build with high-end hardware in mind first, leaving optimization for low-spec machines later. Here's a quote where he says that main cause is the order of development. Many studios build for top-tier hardware first and leave optimization and low-spec testing for the end. Ideally, optimization should begin early, which he is correct, before full content build that. Yeah, he is right. That is correct. Then he says, we're doing two things, strengthening the engine support with more automated optimization across devices and expanding developer education so optimize early becomes a standard practice. Developer education so optimize, that's an interesting take. If needed, our engineers can step in. So yes, Epic is working on the engine so it performs better. If you saw the Unreal Fest, not just the Witcher 4 tech demo, at the Unreal Fest, a lot of what they showcased was geared towards making Unreal Engine perform better, including that Kill the Hitch song that I showed in the video before this one.
We won't take it, everyone. The great hits hunt has just begun. Kill the hitch, kill the hitch.
So yeah, instead of showing more eye candy stuff in this presentation, they actually focus a lot on what we want video games to perform much better. So Epic is actually working on that. And then the article continues and says it does feel like optimization has become an afterthought, especially with DLSS and FSR. I agree. One big problem that these technologies had brought to the table is lack of optimization. And a lot of people say, well, it's the developers. Usually it's not the developers, it's the guys on top. When the guy on top that is not a developer, that is probably an MBA, he sees that the industry says that there is now a way where you can fake frames and you can fix performance so your developers don't have to spend this much time optimizing. That guy on top is going to tell developers, hey, you need to use this. And that's what creates problems nowadays. Let's keep reading. Sweeney stressed that the problems can't be fixed with the engine alone. I agree. Games are more complex than ever, and developers need to work with the engine, not against it. This touched sort of what I talked about in my previous video, where I said that when you're going to use an off-the-shelf engine like Unreal or like Unity, you need to work on it a little bit. You cannot just open it, add the assets, add blueprints, and call it a day and ship it. You need to work on the engine before you actually start building your game, because otherwise it's going to bring you a lot of problems. Now, here's a little bit of developer's perspective. So what are developers saying? In the case of Beautiful Light, I don't think I've ever seen that game. It is familiar. This is where I heard this game. So this channel is called Wild Ox Studios. It's run by a person that's super knowledgeable about game engines. He's been in the industry. He's going to be in the channel where we're going to be talking about game engines, this whole situation. It's a fantastic person to talk to. So that's going to be a really fun video that you don't want to miss. So make sure you subscribe, ring that bell for notification, so you're notified when that video comes out, because it's going to be really fun. Now, going back to this, poor performance usually down to bad practices, not the engine themselves. Well, I think it's, like I explained before, it's a little bit of both. Their comments echo Sweeney's view. Not all developers agree, of course. Developers like Ian McClure from Bolsa at Rocksteady's lead them have both pointed out to the Xbox X as a limiting factor, citing its memory constraints. So you got a hardware problem here. Just something else. Digital Foundry has pushed back slightly on this narrative, noting that many UE games can scale surprisingly well on the Series X, but only with extra development time, something not every studio can afford. This is true because you only have X amount of money. And this is why I think if you're an indie developer watching this, one of the first things that you need to decide is, what is the art style, not only the art style that you want for your game, but also the art style that's going to help you achieve a game that performs well. Because if you're a studio that doesn't have a lot of money and a lot of time to develop a game, and you are fixed on doing super high-end realistic graphics, you're going to have a hard time with that game performing well. That's just how it is. And that is a developer issue. That's not the engine's issue. And we continue reading. Elsewhere, Warhorse Daniel Vavra, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, I'm sorry, has been openly critical of UE5. Kingdom Come 2 has standout RPG praise for its visuals. I mean, it performs well, but it doesn't look great. Like, for current generation, you know I'm not a graphics guy. I don't play video games because of how they look. But I wouldn't say praise for its visuals. At least not for today. But the studio chose to use CryEngine. Barbara argued that Unreal Engine still isn't suited for massive open world projects, which you could argue that, and even claimed that CDPR Witcher 4 team admitted that the engine wasn't fully ready for full-scale open world streaming. I think right now it isn't, but I'm pretty sure they're working on that. You can quote me on this, that The Witcher is going to perform amazing because Epic doesn't want a loss on a game as big as that one, and CDPR cannot afford to repeat what they had happen with Cyberpunk when Cyberpunk released. So I'm positive that game's going to do well. They're going to do everything they can to make that game look fantastic. It's probably going to be delayed because of that. Now, if we keep reading, Unreal Engine 5 continues to evolve with version 5.6, which arrived in June of this year. That includes shader compilation fixes, faster lumen, and a full inch improvement. I've seen myself that the engine is much better in 5.6. Still, Sweeney may have a point when he says the developer should prioritize lower end hardware in early production. Doing so naturally benefits consoles. And finally, it's not a problem that will be solved overnight, and some UE challenges may never fully disappear. Engines always have a little thing that is recognized by the engine. See Creation Engine with all the Bethesda games. There's always that little problem that those games have. Still encouraging to see Tim Sweeney acknowledging the issue. All right, so again, going back to what we read around here when they started mentioning Nanette, and why I told you to put a pin on this part, which says showcase was visually stunning and immediately expectations set high. Just like I mentioned, when CEOs go and see these presentations and they see the high-end graphics and the promises of how your game is going to look like this without having to have a team of 1,000 developers behind you, then CEOs, or the management, or whatever you want to call it, they will tell the developers, now you need to use this. And because of they saw that, not only will they say, now you need to use this, but you also need to do it in less time than you used to. And there's not going to be that many of you, so it is what it is, and this is all you got. That's one of the things that often creates problems and people don't talk about. Sometimes it's neither the engine nor developers, but the people at the top who's making the decisions. Sometimes it's just a little bit of everything. So what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think Tim Sweeney is throwing developers under the bus? Do you think developers need to work more on their games and figure out what the problems are before they actually start developing? Let me know in the comment sections down below. Remember, subscribe, because we are going to have fantastic content coming in. Not only the Dissected series, which I'll get, which is a video that I promised last time, it's coming. And we're also going to have a big discussion with Wild Ox Studios, which is going to be super fun. So you're going to want to subscribe for that. Remember, leave a like and leave a comment, because it really helps out with the engagement, the algorithm. That's what it wants. Thank you so much for watching all the way to this point, and I'll see you in the next one.